Hi, I recorded this episode yesterday and I wanted to come on here and tell you the why behind the recording and what you're about to learn about. Sam McKinney's coming on. She's a registered dietitian. She is amazing. And you're going to learn a ton about just nutrition in general, supplements, what we should be looking for in our labels, what we should be warned of. But really, truly, the things that you're going to learn are the things that I've learned in the past probably 6 months that I have had to figure out, that I have had to prioritize in order to actually see a change in my health. I'm generally healthy, I would say, but that doesn't mean that I don't struggle with mental health issues. That doesn't mean that I don't struggle with gut health, skin health, honestly, like how I feel, just mental health related, like my heart racing and feeling like I can't do tasks, like depression vibes as well. So I want you to listen with an open mind and open heart and just hear her out because she is one of the most intelligent people I have ever met. I'm not joking you. I go to her often at work. I'm always knocking over on her cubicle being like, hey, it's me again. Can I bug you about something that I'm super curious about? Like whether it be a product that I'm wondering if it's going to help my health or whether that be a symptom that I'm feeling that I'm like, I don't know what this is. So please go into this with an open mind and bring a notebook. We are going to leave some resources in the bio, but pay attention to what your symptoms are and what you are like looking to achieve with health. Healthy can mean a lot of things. Healthy doesn't just mean that you get up, you work out, and you have an 80-20 rule. Like that could mean healthy for you, but there's so much further and more information. I learned that over the course of the last year. You will hear me on old episodes of this podcast, like way before it was well said. I didn't think you even needed to take supplements. And holy Christ, was I wrong? I did the blood work to show it. So I thought I didn't need anything at one point, whether that be you or somebody else or whatever, wherever you are right now, just listening to this and understanding the evolution of your nutrition is possible. I still kind of feel weird for taking a lot of things, I'll be honest, but I know now after seeing the blood work, like, okay, my body needs these things and is depleted in these things. So it's important. Problem for me with all of this health stuff is like, I'm either balls to the walls, hitting it hard, or I'm like none at all, like not taking my supplements, not working out, going into kind of like more my depression hole that I'm talking about. So finding a balance and fixing the simple is what Sam's going to talk about. And that has been a huge drastic change for me that I'm still working on day in and day out. I'm not healed. I don't know it all, but I am learning alongside of you. And that's what makes what Well Said is as a whole. And honestly, my mental health needs to be helped with supplements and diet. It's not just one or the other, and exercise, of course. And it's been a wild ride. Like for instance, I went to the dermatologist. I asked about my scratchy, like it's called chicken scratch arms. And they were like, oh yeah, put a little bit of this like face wash on it. Okay, well, but what about when it's more than just cleaning up what's already there? I want to heal what's on the inside causing this reaction on the outside, or my psoriasis for another thing. Another example, how I started healing my bubbly gut. That was through Sam. That was through Minneapolis Integrative Health and my blood work tests. Truly, you can heal what symptoms you have normalized for years, maybe some of you decades. Like I might be gluten intolerant. I had no idea. And I was enjoying a piece of bread a day and just wondering why my tummy hurt. I thought it was dairy. And like it's a lot of different things and why my body's not processing that. Am I intolerant to gluten forever? No, probably not. Hopefully not, crossing my fingers. But I want you to know that I have learned so much about my health, and coming from somebody who is a hypochondriac, this episode is for you. This episode is going to help you hopefully like just shoot and rocket into a different path for your health and well-being. So I'm done rambling. Sam's coming on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation. Listen for little tidbits. She talks about fads. She talks about like towards the end of the episode, like how and what helps symptoms like anxiety, sleep issues, gut health, PCOS, thyroid, inflammation, and skin problems, mental health, and balancing the nervous system. And we've got a little code for you too towards the end. So without further ado, enjoy today's episode. Know that you are learning alongside me, and we are just doing one new nutrition thing, one new health thing at a time to help ourselves live a more well-rounded and balanced life. Okay, enjoy. Well, I just got corrected because I just went to the dentist this morning and I already made a nutritional mistake that I had no idea about. And Sam's like, oh, what are you doing? Waking me up again.
I mean, I usually try.
I know you try too. Sam is here. She's a registered oh my God. I'm going to check myself. Dietitian.
Yeah. Registered dietitian.
Registered dietitian.
Yes.
But you know what trips me out every time I say that?
What?
Nutritionists and dietitians.
So here's where that gets confusing. The credential, you can call it a registered dietitian.
Okay.
Or like RD after someone's name, or you can call it a registered dietitian nutritionist.
Okay.
But then it comes together. If someone just says nutritionist, they probably don't have the registered dietitian credential.
Which would mean you went to school for it?
Yes.
Or
so the registered dietitian credential actually is like a medical credential for nutrition. It allows you to do something called medical nutrition therapy, which is exactly what it sounds like.
The therapy that you give me at work. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of. Yes, depending. If you're bringing blood work my way, probably. Yeah. But it is usually the type of credential, well, it is the credential that you need if you ever want to work for a hospital, a healthcare clinic, dialysis clinic, all that type of stuff. So I started out in that type of care, and then I quickly switched to more preventative after about a year and a half.
Why?
Why? Because I was seeing people 20 years after I could help them, right?
Oh, you were seeing people in the phase where you're like, I don't think I can reverse. I can just maintain kind of thing.
And in acute care and like hospital settings, you basically, I mean, think about it. Somebody is inpatient in a hospital. They just had a heart attack. They feel like total garbage. They're laying there. It's traumatizing for them.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to get stabilized. They're there for like, God willing, a couple of days, and they go home. You get this little knock on the door. Hi, I'm the dietitian. Let me try to change your life in a 10-minute convo.
Like it wasn't swap the broccoli.
It wasn't impactful. Yeah. And they know, like most people know, you know, it's not usually a surprise. And then I worked in ICU care for a while, which was more impactful, but not really like doing tube feeds and IV feedings. That's important. But I was like, oh, that's just.
You have all this knowledge.
Well, it's not only that, you need more knowledge almost to do that because it's so sensitive. But I was like, I want to work with people that want to work with me.
Oh,
and I want to help change the trajectory of their lives so that 20 years later, it looks dramatically different.
And you're doing that.
Yep.
You're doing that for work right now.
Yes.
And that's how we cross paths. We actually do work together, like side note, everybody. And I mentioned that earlier when I kind of brief you in of what's going on. But Sam has helped me honestly pay attention to what's important because I feel like I had this idea of what's healthy. I also have a little bit of a problem with seeing things on the internet and thinking that maybe that's my my end all be all, like that's going to cure me today.
That's everyone. So.
I mean, we're all guilty of it, whatever. But Sam woke me up a little bit of like, dude, these are simple things that you need to fix and just shift really honestly, to improve your health drastically. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about all today. But I want to start, as I always do, with a call, Sid. I'm going to play it.
Hi, Sid. Love you. Love the pod. I was just calling for advice on how to keep energy levels up throughout the day and avoiding that midday work day, post-lunch crash. Whether it's things to do or things to avoid, any help would be great. Love ya.
Quick and easy one. That's like a quick and easy, just like needing a few pointers one. And I will answer that. I know that a lot of what is going to help you stay fuller during the day, and I think a lot of people have this issue, is like under eating, not having a protein heavy breakfast. You may be able to speak better to this than I can, but like heavy carbs in the morning and then kind of like getting sleepy and those all burn off while protein stays a lot longer in your system and it's going to keep you fuller longer.
Yes.
That's what I would say would help you for the midday cravings. There sounds like there's something to do with like sugars and processed sugars there, likely if you're maybe having them in the morning, but I'll let you jump in.
Yes. So the reason people have a midday crash, there's kind of two different things. Number one, it's usually a blood sugar crash, which is why your energy is crashing. You're usually reaching for like a snack versus something really substantial at that time. So protein, if you pair it with any meal, will help you stabilize your blood sugar. And most people, when they hear blood sugar, they immediately think like diabetes. And it's like, nope, the majority of people walking around in the United States probably have overly fluctuating blood sugar. So, it needs to be nice and even. So exactly what you said, most people dramatically undereat protein for breakfast and for lunch. And then they end up, I mean, how many people do we know? It's like, I feel like I'm air quote good all day. And then the wheels fall off in the evening.
Yep.
Right.
Heard it a million times.
Yeah. So you need to eat a lot in the morning and at lunch. And it's usually like double the amount of protein that you think. And the foods that are kind of set up in our society for breakfast. I mean, when you think breakfast food, what comes to mind? Outside of bacon and eggs, which, right? Yes, it's pancakes,
Waffles.
English muffins, waffles, toast. And so it's usually whatever we're grabbing, fruit, yogurt, that type of stuff. That's all carbohydrate, which isn't bad. You need enough protein though. So that and at lunch. And then the second thing is a little bit of circadian rhythm. So if you actually look at a lot of traditional cultures and even like still certain countries in Europe, they have that midday break, right? Like a midday siesta or whatever it might be. That's not unheard of, is to be outside working, you know, in the morning, take a break during the day, and then kind of have another jump in productivity later. So some of that is natural, but if you're like, no, I actually need to work and I can't function because I'm having an energy crash, you need to eat more and you need to make sure you're super hydrated.
Yeah, that is the change that I made. Hydration was a big one for me, especially when I'd have those crashes, and making sure I have electrolytes in my water so that I'm actually like absorbing the water itself, which actually I might just have you answer right now.
Yeah.
Why do we need electrolytes in our water?
Hydration is so much more than water, right? So you can actually really mess up your hydration levels by like waterlogging yourself with just plain water. So hydration is really how well you balance the water in your body. So yes, you need to be drinking water, but historically, think our ancestors, where were they getting water? Like
the lake,
spring water, right? Yeah. So it's like mineral rich, right? Then they also weren't exposed to a ton of things that are mineral depleting either. So if you're drinking a ton of water, particularly, you know, there's this huge trend for filtered water, which, okay, there is stuff in our tap. I am all about filtering your water, but you have to actually replete minerals and electrolytes to maintain that balance. And, you know, we do work together. I've read thousands of lab tests at Lifetime over the years, and I can't tell you how many people were hitting their water targets and all their markers of dehydration were off the chart. And that almost always ties to chronic unmanaged stress. Whenever you're chronically stressed out, it's unmanaged, there's a hormone in your body called aldosterone that you lose.
Okay.
Sodium follows aldosterone, water follows sodium. So essentially they were peeing out more than they should.
Oh, weird.
So electrolytes can help balance all of that out. So you just have to make sure you have a quality one.
When you say minerals that you're interacting with that are pulling away from your hydration, what are we interacting with that's like pulling away from my hydration?
I mean, so think sodium, magnesium, potassium, chloride, all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
So it interacts with
plus,
that.
Yes. Plus trace minerals that are normally found. I mean, look at like they sell mineral water.
Yeah.
Right? It's
yeah,
like
right.
that type of stuff can be super helpful.
Okay. What's taking away from those minerals in our foods and what we're interacting with? You said like our ancestors didn't have to deal with that. What is it that's interacting with ours?
So number one, the type of stress we're under, our bodies are reacting like they're still physical stressors. So we're getting these fight or flight responses, but really we're like sitting down pissed off at an email, right?
It's an email that got me. Yep.
So you're sitting there sedentary, but you're having these stress hormones kind of pulsate through your body. So that's one thing. If you kind of put everything together, like lack of even normal circadian function. So many of us are under like fluorescent lighting all day. We don't get morning sunlight. We don't get evening sunlight. That can have an issue. The added sugars, caffeine, and alcohol that people are consuming are like off the charts compared to what we're supposed to be having. So that can drain a ton from your body. Added sugars, we have a mineral depleted diet generally too. So I mean, there's a ton to it.
There's so many things.
It's like a perfect storm. I know. Hey, but we are also going to talk about not spiraling and being worried about everything.
What? No. Who does that? Not me. I'm literally like, oh God, oh my God, I better hurry and I got to do it all at once. That's something you're going to learn today is like, you actually cannot do it all at once.
Correct.
Like I have built up, for example, supplements that I now take, but it took like, I'm doing 1. Now I'm going to do 3 maybe. Now I'm going to do 4. So you add on to it after you make the pattern.
Yep.
But that's something I've also struggled with is like actually maintaining the pattern because, you know, obviously we go through cycles of emotions with our periods and different things as females, especially.
That actually shouldn't be too bad.
Well,
but we all experience. Well, it's common, right?
It's common.
Common,
I shouldn't
but
say
not
all
normal.
of us.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not normal.
Yeah.
I know everybody. The people are like, that's not normal to feel all that. My cramps have gotten better since being off birth control.
Awesome.
And understanding my blood work.
Yeah.
But something I fall into is falling out of habits.
Yes.
With nutrition, but mostly for me it's supplements. But a lot of people it is nutrition.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be curious, what would you say to somebody who is falling out of their nutritional habits? Like they fall into like,
I mean,
you know, I'm getting lazy. I'm going to have a little bread here. Oh, I'm going to go out to eat. Now I don't really give a shit because I'm just going to keep ordering the fries and now I'm too far removed.
Yeah, I think what you're hitting on right now is the biggest struggle that I have seen across the board. And I've been a dietitian for like, I don't want to date myself, like over 15 years, almost 20 years. And I've been coaching for even longer than that.
Yep.
Is the all or nothing mentality. That's the problem, is whenever you said, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a piece of bread here and then go out to eat here and now I'm falling off. I'm like, actually, those aren't mutually exclusive from being on track. You can be on track and do those things. And people are like, wait, what? You know, because everybody's so extreme. Like, what do I need to do? And if I don't kind of go full bore balls to the wall, then the wheels are falling off. I'm like, there's an in between there. You know, like you don't have to be like super extreme. So to your question is how, like what happens whenever the habits start falling off? I think my question is, how did you get on the habits in the first place? Mm-hmm. Did you throw everything all at yourself at once? Do you have an understanding and a respect for why you have a certain habit in place in the first place? If you're doing something because you think you're supposed to, and you don't understand why, it loses its inherent intrinsic value for you. So you're going to stop doing it.
Yep. And you won't apply it.
Because then it feels like a rule. And all of us are like rebels at heart. Like you get told not to do something and you want to do it. Yeah. You get told to do something, you want to stop. But if you actually understand why and you have this intrinsic motivation of like, oh shoot, like I can connect the dots as to how that helps me, then you end up staying on track because you genuinely want to do it.
And you have to make it approachable and easy for yourself.
Yes.
Like the habits have to be easy. I'm even looking at my notes on here and I'm like, I know a lot of people write in of like eating healthy is so hard.
It is.
And it's so like honestly de-energizing because you're like, oh my God, I have to think about it.
So many decisions and decision
so easy
fatigue.
To eat out.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the world that we live in right now is set up to pull you in every direction but healthy, right? Mm-hmm. Like almost every convenience option, unless you are purposely looking for healthy alternatives, the default convenience is away from health. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It pulls you in the right direction and it satisfies some sort of immediate need that creates a longer term problem, right? So like if your immediate need is like, I'm starving and I need to fill my stomach right now, there's a million options.
There's quick fixes for that real fast.
Yes. Yep. You add those together and then before you know it, you are so far off the path of where you had hoped to be with your overall health and how you feel.
You know, what I think is interesting that I've learned through all of this process of like me going to naturopaths and talking to you and working with people is time management and health go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like
they
literally
really
they are sisters. They hold hands. And when one goes off, the other one is like, wee, I'm going with you.
You're not going to fall into a healthy pattern.
No.
You will fall into an unhealthy pattern.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I think people need to remove their shame and their guilt from that. That doesn't remove your responsibility for yourself. But unless you're purposeful, I mean, just look around at how easy it is to be sedentary, how easy it is to eat poorly, right? So it's not your fault that it's easy, but it's still your responsibility to take control of yourself. And no one else is going to do it for you. And guess what? I love supplements. We can talk about supplements and how to pick them. I've got a robust plan. You've got a robust plan. But you can't out-supplement a bad diet. And then that being said, one of my favorite quotes, it's not mine, is there's also no diet that's so good that it can't benefit from supplementation.
True.
You know, so I mean, people just have to, there's no one's going to save you from yourself in terms of your health goals. And like, if you're not in a spot, barring obviously there are some like traumatic health conditions and diagnoses and things like that. I'm talking about like chronic, right? You're responsible for yourself and the decisions that you make. Nobody else is.
Absolutely, you are.
Yeah.
And it all is, today's like a stepping stone.
Yes.
It's like, we're just going to go through, I'm going to show you because I made a lot of mistakes in college. Like for instance, I was an athlete. I ate terrible. I mean, terribly.
My friends think it's hilarious that I'm a dietitian.
Wait,
so you're
why?
not alone there. Same thing.
Because you just were like, what? I ate Stouffer's, lasagna every day, and or what are they called? Pot pies and Topper's pizza, if you guys are familiar. And I mean, like, and I was an athlete. Like, what the heck is going on? So I thought I was, I knew that those foods weren't like healthy, but I was eating and filling my body. I was an athlete. So it takes stepping stones. It's not like you're stuck, wherever you are right now. You can make the choice, but you have to make the choice. Like, it started with me because I was curious and because of symptoms. So I want to talk about just like some symptoms that people are having that they're normalizing.
Yeah.
What would you say is going on right now?
Oh gosh. And I'm seeing things like younger and younger, like when I was growing up, what am I like 80 years old, but like back in my day
when we didn't have the TV.
I can't even believe I just said that. But like literally when I was growing up, it's like, there were some people that might have like period symptoms or what have you, or health issues. Now that I'm older, I have a child, he's a toddler, you know what I mean? But I have friends that have kids that are older. It's like things are starting to pop up like in younger and younger people in adolescence, right? But what I find is even people in their 20s are starting to normalize things, and people in their 30s and all that. I'm like, okay, listen, so many things that people chronically struggle with are common, but they're not normal. We had said that earlier. But if you're dealing with like, gosh, I'm always bloated, right? And I have bubble gut, like that's not normal. If
Raising my hand because the bubble gut is real.
If your monthly cycle is an absolute nightmare and you're miserable, that is not normal, right?
Like partial hand on that
Yes. If you are struggling with sleep and you're just constantly waking up and you're exhausted and you're tired, that is not normal. If you are struggling with cravings, so many people think that's mind over matter with cravings, especially if somebody is like concerned about their body composition or their weight, or they're just trying to change something about how they look or feel. They're like, oh, I like people so like self-shame themselves for not overcoming cravings. I'm like, there's actually like biology like with that, you know, it's not just all mind over matter. But cravings chronically are not normal. Aches and pains are not normal. Frequent injuries.
Oh, yeah.
That also common, but not normal, right?
Depleted in an area of some sort of vitamin or mineral. What about skin?
Oh, yes. Skin issues, eruptions,
Stomach
acne,
discomfort.
all of that is a big one. Yes. Stomach discomfort, everything from like, if you're not this, I mean, you can't talk about nutrition without talking about poop sometimes. Yeah. Really? Like, if you're not having normal daily healthy bowel movements, that is a huge red flag. So like if you're dealing not just with like diarrhea or constipation, but let's say, I know it sounds funny to talk about, but like really stinky farts all the time. Yeah. Not normal, right? Yeah. Like, you know, so there's like so much with it. Gosh, I'm trying to think what else.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head of all the things that I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
How does someone go about starting to understand what to do? Because nutrition really is connected to everything. Everything.
It is. I mean, yeah, every cell in your body, like it has micronutrients that it needs. There's so many different things with your mental health that impact your physical health and vice versa. Yeah. Where to start? Well, I think it just depends on, number one, like look at your current habits, right? Like what are you currently doing? Are there things where you're like, you know what? I am very aware that I am not living a healthy lifestyle. Okay. Then step one is like, okay, so you already know. If someone's like, no, I feel like I'm doing generally well. I'm better than Joe Schmo and better than, you know, I don't know, friends, family, whatever. And this just isn't making sense. I feel like I'm living a healthier lifestyle than how I feel. That's whenever you start talking about like actually assessing and doing blood work, which is something that I'm super passionate about. Like you have to look under the surface and see what's going on. What's funny is that first camp of people, maybe the ones that are like, hey, I know I'm not living the right way, but like I'm just having trouble actually making the changes, or hey, I've heard I should be doing X, Y, and Z and I'm not. I actually find that there's a lot of good behavior change psychology that comes from doing assessments, meaning there's a crap ton of people that won't make a change until they see problems on paper,
which I can attest to being that same way.
Yes.
Because to be honest, I was a non-believer of supplements for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm like, you shouldn't need supplements. You shouldn't need it because I eat really healthy. Like
Let's
what?
talk about that.
I mean, we might as well. We might as well, because I want to come back to like what is the gut control and the nervous system balancing and fads, of course. But let's talk about it. Talk about supplements, because you don't jump to them. Again, you're evaluating your current state. You're seeing if you're eating well and healthy, you're moving your body, you're doing all the right things. Okay, now you want to take it a step further because you're like, I'm pretty decent in those areas. I do some blood work. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I'm seeing there's discrepancies and things that I'm depleted in.
Yep.
Now we're to the point of supplements. I just want to make that so clear, because this is not you see something on the internet or on Instagram and your friend takes it and it's working for her and you should go take it because it's going to heal your skin and your gut.
Here's the thing though, Sid, is your kind of first setup, I would lovingly, because we're there, challenge it a little bit.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I'd gladly take a challenge.
Okay. So I would say in order for you to consider supplements, it doesn't need to be, I'm eating perfectly, I'm exercising, I'm doing all these things, and now I have blood work that shows. It can actually happen concurrently, but it's all on what you're expecting the supplements to do.
Okay.
So for example, let's say somebody is eating like trash every day. It's DoorDash, it's fast food, they are skipping their workouts, they're drinking, they're hungover every morning. I mean, every morning, then you have a different problem. But but
weekend morning.
Yes.
At
Weekend morning.
Times.
Yes. Right. Okay. So let's say that's someone's reality. Is taking a multivitamin going to undo all of those issues? No. Is taking a multivitamin going to provide some nutrition that their body desperately needs? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So it's all about like what you're expecting it to do. So you can do them. And actually, coaching clients, whenever you're actually helping somebody turn their health around, right? I would say that usually at the beginning, I would introduce supplementation as an option, not only because I knew it would physiologically help them if they're doing it intelligently, but it's because it's easy and you need these little mini wins to keep going and to get dopamine of like, I'm doing the thing. So now I'm going to do the next thing. Right. And supplements is like, hey, I remember to take my multivitamin every day. I'm like, great. Now let's drink some water.
Yeah.
Right.
And
great.
next step,
now
one step at a time.
And it's just that snowball effect of building on habits. So they can be physiologically helpful even at the very beginning of somebody's journey, but they're also, if you're actually serious about like, okay, I'm going to habit stack and I'm going to actually turn my life around in the next year. Right. They're part of that process too.
Absolutely.
But back to kind of what you were saying is like, hey, where does somebody, I think you were getting to like, where does someone begin?
Where do you even begin to look for? Because there's so many out there. I even hear people spewing information on the internet, which it's hard because I'm a consumer of all this content. That's
too.
what helps me decide what I'm going to talk about transparently, you guys.
Yeah.
And I hear people being like, if you are needing like supplements, something's wrong. If you are taking more than 2, you've got something wrong, honey.
No.
And those are also the same people that are selling products from companies I will not name who put filler ingredients in their supplements, which by the way, protein, all of those things are supplements,
correct.
FYI.
Yeah.
And they're selling and spewing like fake, I'm sorry, if it tastes like cotton candy, it's not real, people.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And I think what most people forget too, our entire food supply is fortified. So even if you're not like buying and taking supplements, you're getting supplemented.
Yeah.
If you drink a glass of orange juice, you're getting supplemented. Yeah. Right. In
That's
your
a vitamin
mimosa,
C.
even you're getting supplemented. Right. Like there's,
okay.
Well, no, because they're fortified. Right.
Like, fortified ingredient. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are supplements in your food. So like everybody's kind of getting supplemented anyway. But okay. So I would say where to start. I mean, number one, you have to sort of look at the boring basics, right? Is like, okay, what do I actually need to do that's sort of like foundational that should help? And like, what should I really consider whenever it comes to supplementation? I always use the analogy with everyone I talk to and kind of like pick my brain on nutrition is like, let's talk about actually like building a house, right? What is your foundation, right? So from a supplementation standpoint, if we use that, like, let's build a house, what is your foundational supplementation? It's basic stuff that you're probably lacking in the first place. So we can kind of get into the details if you want, but my mind goes to omega-3 fatty acids, minerals primarily, magnesium for most people, micronutrients. So like vitamins and minerals. Everyone's so concerned about like tracking my macros and that's important. But I always say macros are like fuel for a car, and the micros, your vitamins and minerals, are like the engine parts. Like your fuel is not going to work well if the engine parts aren't like polished.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, we live in a world where like oftentimes supplementation is necessary to get to optimal levels. Our produce is anywhere from like 20 to 80% depleted, right? So even
so sad.
Unless you're like foraging in your backyard and you grew everything and you're like slaughtering your own cow, then it's probably depleted, right? Think of the amount of medications people are on. So I think people forget about like birth control completely zaps your B vitamins and other nutrients, right? Heartburn medication, blood pressure medication, anti-anxiety, antidepressants. There's a time and place for these things, but that doesn't change the fact that they're depleting certain nutrients that you have to replete. I mentioned stress earlier, but stress will zap you of magnesium, chromium, zinc, B6. Like, and again, how many of us just in our society, like stress is a big deal. Like
it's a huge deal.
Yeah. Like everybody's kind of like wound up. There's so much anger and like, vitriol and all this stuff going on in the world. It's like we're stressed out. Just think of the like cumulative toxins and things that we're exposed to. And I know even people on social media, you see everyone's like, oh, everything's a chemical. That doesn't matter. I'm like, no, if you add together the cumulative impact of the off-gassing from the new car you're in or the new construction that you live in, plus your beauty products, plus what's in your tap water, plus your cleaning products, plus what's in the air, plus, just add. Like, my yard got sprayed. There's this in the air. Like,
and your cotton candy flavored.
Yes. And then you
candy or protein.
Then you look at what you're taking that's concentrated in a supplement every day as like a chronic thing. Then no, we actually are in a dire need to help support our body with supplementation. That doesn't mean, whenever I say that, I'm not saying like that matters more than food or it matters more than exercise. I'm just saying it can only help if you do it strategically.
Absolutely.
Right?
What supplements with all of that information do we actually need?
Yeah. So my answer on like every time I've been a guest on any podcast or done any talk or anything is always, it depends. And that drives people crazy because they're like, no, what's the answer? I want the answer. But it does depend. But I would say generally speaking, most people actually do need a high quality, verified, clean protein support because most of us are underdoing protein. Now, I know that's not a micronutrient, that's a macronutrient, but protein is so transformational for everything. It can be transformational for your mental wellness because it keeps your blood sugar stable and you're not all over the place. It can be transformational for your sleep because you're not waking up from dips in low blood sugar. It can be transformational for your body composition, your blood sugar, all that. So protein's probably the first one. And when people are like, oh, I just want to get protein from food, I'm like, fine, then do it. If you can hit your protein goals with straight up food in today's society and you can meal prep and plan everything, do it.
What would be hitting a protein goal?
Generally speaking, it's about a gram of protein per pound of your like ideal weight, right? Generally. There's variation within that, but most people are grossly under eating their optimal protein. So the quote that I've coined that I think resonates with people is it's far better to hit your protein goals using protein powder than not hit your protein goals at all.
Absolutely agreed.
Right?
Absolutely agreed.
It's that one. The next one I would say is magnesium is huge. So most of the population is walking around with nowhere near enough magnesium. And I think what people don't realize is that when you're low in magnesium, your sleep is kind of crummy, your digestion's not good, you get massive, men and women get hormone issues when they're low in magnesium. Low magnesium can contribute to like terrible PMS. It can contribute to like low testosterone in men. Magnesium, I could sing its praises all day long. What people also don't realize, it's more optimal. Like we all have heard of vitamin D, right? Vitamin D ties to your mood. It ties to your immune system. It's actually a pro-hormone more than it is a vitamin. It's like a hormone precursor. Most people are deficient in vitamin D. You need to be sufficient in magnesium to optimally replete vitamin D.
So just taking vitamin D will not do it for you, and unless you have the right amount of magnesium.
So magnesium will help you more physiologically efficiently replete vitamin D.
So they all interconnect. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And in fact, people are like, oh my gosh, vitamin D, calcium, bone health. So like vitamin D3 is the active form that you should find in a supplement. Should always be paired with vitamin K2 because vitamin K tells vitamin D where to go in the body. You don't want to be like, vitamin D increases calcium absorption. You don't want that calcium to start calcifying your arteries. You want it to go to the right spot, right? So vitamin K helps with that. There's a tie in there with vitamin A and magnesium and calcium all together. So
they all interconnect.
Yeah, which is why when you hear food first, I don't disagree with that. You need to be eating healthy, but then like repleting the right way. So I don't want to overcomplicate things because simplifying things is the best way to actually have people make positive changes. Absolutely. So I would say magnesium, right? Then vitamin D3 with K2. But I wanted to say, hey, consider those all together.
Yep.
I mentioned omega-3 fatty acids are another one, but and then probably like a good quality multivitamin, but there are very few of those out there. Most multivitamins I throw in the trash, and I've done it to my friends and family. They're like, wait, let me just finish that bottle. I'm like, no.
I'm going to ask you about what's in it and what we're looking for, but first I want to ask you like a real question.
Yeah.
What supplements are out there that are just BS?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. Okay, where do I even
talked
begin?
about the good. I got to know what supplements are BS.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I'm so entrenched in the good. Sometimes it's hard to remember like, okay, what's trending right now? Because most of it's going to be BS. I would say number one, like just plain BCAAs. You don't need just plain BCAAs. You need a full, like branched chain amino acids are often worked as like a workout supplement. Mm-hmm. Branched chain amino acids, so protein is made of building blocks called amino acids. There's a set of them that are called branched chain amino acids. Those are important for like muscle building and stuff, but not in isolation. Everybody know, right? Like you need them in the right amounts, but they should be part of a bigger protein or be part of a blend of all the essential amino acids. So BCAAs are like, I just wouldn't do that at all. Like
you're like, bye. No, get rid of it.
The other thing that I would say too, and this kind of will tie a little bit into ingredients, is the BS supplements that have synthetic forms of nutrients whenever you can skip that. So for example, and this is really shocking to people, it's if you're looking at like a B vitamin complex and there's folic acid in there, I'm like, throw it out. People are like, what?
Yeah.
Like folic acid, like that's good for you. You need that when you're pregnant, all that. Yeah. You need folate, right? And there's about half of the population has trouble converting folic acid into the right form of folate for it to be usable. Now, there's still benefit for the other half of the population for folic acid, but here's what a supplement that has folic acid tells me. Okay. It tells me that the company that manufactured that doesn't give a rip about doing the highest quality ingredients. It is a sign of that company's manufacturing practices and their ingredient selection. They are trying to cut cost. So if they're trying to cut costs there, where else are they cutting costs that we can't see?
As a supplement company.
Yes.
That's sad.
Yes. The other one is, and this kind of was all over social media because there was all these rumors of how it's produced. But have you seen like the vitamin B12, like the cyanocobalamin, any of that?
Kind of, yes.
So
I mean,
basically, there was all of these rumors. There's always a truth to every lie that's out there, but there's a form of B12. You should start looking at your energy drinks, start looking at your multivitamins, start looking at any B complex that you're taking. Start looking at ingredient labels. And if there's vitamin B12 on anything, because it does give you energy, right? If it's made from cyanocobalamin, that is the synthetic form of B12. So that is a cheap form. So that's another sign that a company is cutting corners on their raw ingredients because they're not using the activated form, which is methylcobalamin. There's a couple other more activated forms too. But these activated forms like methylated folate, methylcobalamin instead of vitamin B12, they're more expensive. They're significantly more expensive, but they have more of a positive benefit on human physiology. So when I start seeing those, I'm like, oh, they're using cheap raw ingredients. They're really trying to maximize their profit margins. Immediate red flag.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's so bad for you physically, but it tells me enough where I'm like, no, I'm not letting you take the rest of that.
I want to talk about what like looking at the ingredients in your supplements and like why you shouldn't be buying cheap.
Yeah.
But I want to really quick ask, because I'm talking about supplements that are BS.
Yeah.
What fads are going on out there in the nutrition world right now that we need to be weary of?
Okay. All of them, I guess. But okay, which ones would I think the thing is realizing that anytime that you're following an influencer or someone on social media and they're making everybody do the same thing, that's immediate, oh, hell no. Like, what's happening there? So for example, let's use, and I'm going to get people up in arms here.
I know it happens. I do it too.
Let's talk about fasting, intermittent fasting. Oh, yeah, like mic drop, right?
I know. I'm like, uh-oh.
Yes. So is it been shown to be beneficial for certain people at certain times? Yes. Is it absolutely detrimental for some other people to be doing it that might pick up on it, right? Because they saw it on social media and everyone should be doing it and no one should ever eat past 6 p.m., blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So if you've got thyroid issues, fasting may not be good for you. And I know that there's probably going to be people in your followers in your comments like, I have thyroid issues and I started fasting and my thyroid issues went away. Good for you. It can happen, but that doesn't apply to everybody, right? And so it's like, okay, so number one, fasting might not be good for thyroid issues. For people that have been under chronic stress for an extremely long time and are starting to have symptoms of like adrenal insufficiency, intermittent fasting is a big no. Anybody that's prone to low blood sugar, I would not recommend intermittent fasting until you regain control of your blood sugar. And then there's a time to do it, right? Same thing with keto, right? So I see, so I'm in like so many different like Facebook groups for like different things.
Yep.
And one of them is like a young moms type of Facebook group. And I see people giving other people advice that, hey, in order for you to get pregnant, you need to like go keto or do carnivore or whatever it might be. And I'm like, oh my word, like that might work for 1% of the population, but that's actually going to make a lot of people have trouble conceiving and having a baby because now your body is perceiving like panic that food's not available. So your body's not going to reproduce in that situation. So
everybody's bodies are different.
Yes, it really is. And then the other thing too, this isn't one fad.
Yeah.
What's driving me absolutely bonkers right now is I feel like a lot of wellness influencers, biohackers, all that type of stuff, for the average person that's trying to get healthier, they are overcomplicating everything.
Yes.
They're overcomplicating it. And so people are paralyzed. And they're like, you know what? Screw it. No matter what I do, I'm not going to be healthy because I'm not waking up and I'm not sunning my genitals in the morning and I'm not, fasting until noon. And then I'm not supposed to have caffeine until 90 minutes after I eat. And then I can't have X, Y, and Z. And then my caffeine and my coffee has mold in it. So then I have to go get the special coffee. And then I have to stop eating at a certain time. But then I'm supposed to do HIIT training this many times a week. And I'm like, stop. Everybody stop the presses. Like this is, I'm not saying all those things are bad, but I am saying like, oh my gosh, for somebody that's really early in this journey, you've just completely paralyzed them.
And it's impossible
with
to
information.
dissect.
Yeah, like where do you even begin? And so it goes back to building like the foundation of that house. So 2 places that I start everyone. If you're sitting here, you're like, I want to be healthier. Where do I begin? My first, actually not 2, but 3 questions for you are number 1, how much protein are you eating? Start with protein. And they're like, and everyone's like bored by that. They're like, okay, well, what else? I'm like, literally don't move on until you get your protein down.
What you've told to me too.
Yes.
Yes.
Secondly, how much are you sleeping? Are you scrolling late at night, Sid? Are you sending emails at 11 p.m. at night?
I don't know what you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never done that before in my life. Didn't do it yesterday.
The number of times that Sid will send me like a work-related email and then I reply back, I'm like, we're going to talk about this in the morning.
I get in trouble at work with my coworkers because they're like,
we love you.
It's not that I bugged her. It's that she's like, why the F are you up right now?
Correct. Yeah. And so I'm like, how much protein are you eating? How much are you sleeping? Like, for the love of God, go to bed earlier.
Yep.
And then are you lifting? Are you lifting weights? Right. So that's the first 3 places I start. There's 80 other things that are like almost as important in ranking, but those are the 3 that I'm like, just begin there.
So you're not saying begin with like the brain powder supplements or bone marrow supplements or drinking bone broth during the day, or what about like colostrum?
Never a starting point, right? Yeah. I do love colostrum though. I do take it every day.
I know. I just started taking it because I thought it was a fad and I wanted to test it, and it's so far so good.
No, it's actually really great for your gut health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I am not taking my preferred brand right now, but I will be taking my preferred brand soon.
Yeah, there you go.
Soon enough with Lifetime.
But here's what I'll say though. All those things, like for example, I'm like, yeah, I'm not poo-pooing colostrum, right? Like I said, it's literally in my routine, but I am like 20 years into a career in health and fitness. I'm not talking to somebody that's like, okay, I'm not I'm going to assume that a lot of listeners are probably like, listen, I'm not so unhealthy that I'm eating fast food for every meal and that I don't ever exercise, right? I'm going to assume most people are like, yeah, like I try to stay active. I try to eat well, I try to like get enough sleep. I try, all those types of things. So it's like, where do I begin? I'm like, first, make sure that you're getting enough protein, because unless you're purposeful about it, you're probably not getting enough. And the reason that I say that is it anchors so many other habits. If you can get your protein right, you will naturally control your calories. Your cravings will likely go away. So then instead of saying, I can't have all this sugar, I need to stay away from sugar, you just naturally eat less sugar.
Your brain fog will go away
mostly.
I mean, usually speaking.
Yeah.
It definitely does for me.
You end up like the snackies and the hangries go away, right? Like, oh, I just need a little treat. Like that starts to go away.
Body aches are like totally different.
You
Sleep
feel
improves.
so much better post-workout, like all of it. So that's why I'm like, protein is not only so important in isolation physiologically, but I found, and this is just the art of coaching and having worked with real people in real human situations, when you get your protein right, other things fall into place.
So if you could pick one supplement for every person to be taking right now, it would be protein.
No. Which is so, and I only say that because what if that person's getting enough protein from food?
Right.
It is the number one habit, I would say, is hit your target grams in protein. If you need protein powder to do so, then yes. The number one supplement that everybody should be taking. So there's exceptions to every rule. I can't not say that as a dietitian, right? Because there
legally,
might be that there might be medical things. It would be a tie between a chelated, which is a chelated magnesium, so a magnesium supplement. It has to be in the right form, and omega-3 fatty acids or fish oil. It'd be a tie between those two, but quality is everything.
Okay, I just am sharing that with my starters out there.
Yes.
Why do we care about quality, and what are we looking for?
Oh, great question. Okay, so whenever, just with those two in particular, maybe both. Okay, so
maybe not in specifics what they're looking for, but overarchingly, when we're looking and turning not only our food labels, because that's a huge change that I had to make too.
Yeah.
But also our supplement labels.
Yeah. So, okay. Number one is you need some sort of guide. And I don't know, I can provide you the one that we use at Lifetime if it's helpful, if you have like resources or anything in the notes.
In the bio of this episode.
Perfect.
So everybody can reference that.
What I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
So when it comes to supplementation, the first thing is quality of ingredients. So I kind of talked earlier about the synthetic forms of nutrients. If those are on a label, that personally, for me, tells me enough about a company where I'm like, no. But there are like, I used folate and vitamin B12 as an example, but you could go on and on down the list in terms of what sweeteners are they using. If I see sucralose, that's an artificial sweetener. Not that a little bit of sucralose is going to kill you. It's not, but that tells me like, oh, that there are better alternatives than sucralose. Why are they using sucralose, right? If I see artificial flavors, artificial additives, artificial colors, then I'm like, no, because those are usually in there to cover up or mask poor quality ingredients and or save the company manufacturing it money so that their profit margins on it are higher, right?
So disappointing from somebody who's like creating a company out of like wanting to make people healthier, and then they still end up going backwards.
Well, that's the thing is okay. When dietary supplement regulations were established in 1994, there were 4,000 supplement companies. Okay. That sounds like a lot. 4,000. Wow. There are 95,000 of them right now, and the regulations haven't changed at all.
Oh,
so
wow.
like you could be making something in your bathtub, and if it's packaged pretty, you could probably get it on a shelf somewhere. And the way that the regulation, and the way that the regulations are is we like to lovingly refer to it as speed limit regulation, meaning you get in trouble when you get caught. It's not like a pre-approval process. So like, we all know on our drive home, there's a certain spot on the road that we could probably go 10 or 11 over consistently. It doesn't really matter until you get caught. You could do that for years. It's the same thing with supplements. So, back to your original question, it starts with knowing what ingredients to look for. We can provide you a resource as to how to do that. Like, hey, choose this, not that for these ingredients.
Okay.
If they have the synthetic ones, get rid of it. That alone, I will tell you, out of all the questions that people are like, well, what do you think about this supplement or this supplement? My inbox, my texts, I'm constantly flooded with that kind of stuff.
I send Sam those too, by the way.
95% of them literally get eliminated just by looking at the label and knowing what to look for.
Yep.
So starting with that, and it's almost too much to memorize to talk about it right now. So we'll make sure we give you that resource. But the couple examples that are quick would be, for me, folic acid.
Yep.
The cyanocobalamin B12 and sucralose are probably the most common ones that immediately tell me like, nope, they could have done better.
Okay.
Right?
And that's for supplements.
Yes.
For food.
Oh.
Okay. What foods
Yeah.
should we immediately eliminate because it has a certain ingredient in it?
Okay. So this answer is going to be, again, indirect because that's how I roll.
I know.
And you know
And,
this.
well,
I do this to
that's
you at
okay,
work.
though.
I do this to you at work all the time. I guess the way that I want to word that is when people are like, what's the one thing I should be avoiding? And I'm like, anything that makes you have extremist mentalities to it or any type of perfectionist all or nothing type thinking,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Because I think what people don't realize is like, yes, I'm a dietitian. I'm going to talk about food sourcing and quality and protein and fiber and produce and antioxidants and colorful vegetables and, actual real whole grains and cooking oils. I'm going to talk about all that type of stuff. But what people don't realize is that how a food makes you feel sometimes can be anti-inflammatory. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the joy of eating something is better than the actual nutrition value of it. So
Agreed.
If it's my kid's 4th birthday party and there is a cake there full of sugar and might have some artificial stuff in it, I think the sadness and the just missing out on not eating it because it has something in it is genuinely way worse for my health than celebrating my kid's birthday.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
absolutely.
And I mean, I've had clients before, they're like, you'd be so proud of me. It was my birthday. I didn't even eat cake. And I'm like, what? Like, that is awful.
I don't
Go
feel
back and eat
proud.
cake. No, I don't feel
proud of
proud
you
of
for
that.
that.
Like, that is really sad. And they're like, wait, what?
It's really sad too, because
Yeah.
even just hearing from listeners and things like that, they're like, people asking about health and wellness. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't cut anything. Like, I really don't. I mean, there are
Yeah.
things that I won't consume because I know how it makes me feel. And I know what the ingredients are in there are literally like from a hazardous material site that you should wear gloves. Like,
Or
consuming.
you're like, this actually doesn't make me feel
Yeah,
good.
or it gives me heartburn, or it makes my tummy lining really like burning, and
Yes.
upset, or bubbly gut. But that's what I'm looking for. Versus, I still go out, you guys. I go eat my Red Cow burger because it's also made of great ingredients, but it's really good.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. And all I do is sub for the bun to be
Mhm.
gluten free, because right now I'm working on healing my gut lining, and I found out that gluten is irritating it.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, and I don't eat a burger every day. I eat at home a lot.
You eat really well.
Yeah.
I see like what you're
Thanks.
posting. It's good quality. It's good
Yeah.
sourced. And then every once in a while you go out. And I think that's
Totally.
And
Going
it's
out
going
tomorrow.
to, and here's the thing is that, again, back to this individuality, if you are in a state where, let's say, your gut is a total mess, you have hormone issues, you feel terrible, you're trying to figure things out, guess what? That might just be a season where you do need to be more strict and really dial in what you're doing.
Okay.
Right. And
Yeah.
And then maybe as things balance out, you get a little bit more flexibility, right? Because it's all about priorities and like what's currently going on with somebody.
Absolutely.
But I find these two extremes, and I see this a lot on social media. There's the people that it's like, if it fits your macros, everything fits. Don't ever eliminate food or else you have an eating disorder, right?
Yeah,
Like they go there, right? And then there's the like extreme like food purists, like I would never touch something that's not organic, that is not grown in my backyard kind of a thing. And I'm like, listen, that truth as usual is something in the middle.
Mhm.
Sometimes people eliminate food categories, food groups, or foods because they make them feel like hell.
Yeah.
So by suggesting that somebody has a disorder because they're eliminating something that literally makes them feel terrible, That doesn't make any sense.
I've heard people say to me like, "Well, live a little." Like,
yes.
because I'm cutting out gluten, and I'm like,
and you're like, I'm going to sit on the toilet the rest of the night.
Yeah,
does that mean I need to eat it?
I get severe heartburn. My bubbly gut is absurd. And I'm like, I'm not disordered.
Correct.
I'm just figuring out my health.
Correct. Yeah. And then on the extreme, and so again, there's those people. And then there's the food purists where I'm like, wow, you're like really, like, you don't even know the joy of like grabbing happy hour and chips with a friend.
No, literally.
Yeah. Like, you know, like,
you must be wearing a bandana and you might be living in a straw home.
And ultimately, it's what you do 80 or 90% of the time that matters for most people. And like I said, when you're going through a season of metabolic dysfunction or disorders or sickness, which happens where it's part of the human condition, then maybe that 10%'s got to get reined in a little bit because it's actually having a negative impact on you.
Question, because a lot of what we do in like our work is a lot of people, we're around people who are in health, you know, and they're like, they're doing amazing things mostly. But like, I'm talking ingredients that you see in like, energy drinks and weird, you know, like protein bars or like other filler things. Like if we could stop consuming one of these ingredients, what would it be? That, huh?
It can't be the perfectionist thing.
No, I want to know. Because the point I'm trying to prove is, for instance, some of what Jordan was struggling with health-wise was coming from the Celsius that he was drinking.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's going to vary person by person, but things that I think don't belong in foods and where I'm like, oh, there's a better alternative there.
Yeah.
Is anytime I see an artificial color or an artificial flavor, right? Okay. And that will be disclosed on a label. It'll say usually natural and artificial flavorings, right? I'm like, okay, there's so many options for, you know, other ones. The other one I would say, if you see artificial colors too, like it's usually listed like FD&C, you know, yellow or brilliant blue or whatever it might be. But again, I still would say I still wouldn't say don't ever eat it.
Because I'm still eating. I mean,
because that might go back to that birthday cake example I gave you. Like if I might be at a low, because again, I got my kids. So this is an example. I got my kids' last birthday cake from this really cute, quaint, family-owned local bakery, right? I picked it up and I said, hey, do you guys use artificial colors in here? And they were like, yeah. Does that mean I'm not going to eat it? Yeah. So it's like, hey, I don't think it belongs in the food. But that's why my answer earlier was anything that like causes you to have extreme opinions or behaviors, maybe that's something to reconsider your relationship with.
Absolutely.
You know? And I'm not saying everything fits for every person at all times. Like I also can't eat gluten, right? There are people where I've actually seen psychosomatic food reactions where they have trigger foods. So for example, I remember one client, as random as it is, it was Skittles. She couldn't eat 2 Skittles and then stop. Like literally couldn't stop. It triggered something in her, and then she would kind of like binge on it. And that's where I'm like, okay, you need to be working with a psychologist too, because this is more than just nutrition. And she did, thank goodness. But like there are certain things that are real. They're real issues where there are food triggers, and then all of a sudden people are down this spiral and they literally feel like they can't stop, and then they feel shame, and then they feel guilt. And I'm like, listen, this is addressable with the right help.
Yeah.
But for somebody to look at someone like that in the face and be like, you should just have a couple Skittles every day, live a little, how irresponsible would that be? Right?
You just don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Everybody's body is telling a different story based on the, like, think of like a little like bowl of things. Like one thing affects all the other things. Like we don't have the same bowl full of whatever fruit or whatever you want to look at in your bowl. And my anxiety and my stress cause different needs for me than the person on, you know, watching my story on my Instagram.
Absolutely.
Right?
And that's where when we talk about like general population stuff, that's why I always went back to, are you eating enough protein? Are you sleeping enough? Are you lifting weights?
Yeah.
Because though that's for the most people, that's the basis to start to build a healthy foundation. And then, you know, the decorations and the curtains and stuff of the house are your carb timing and how much carb and which carb, gluten-free or not, like, right? And that's where you really got to genuinely, for the majority of people listening right now, if you start with the basics, it'll get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
It will. I promise you it will. There's a small percentage of you that might need additional help and need to work with somebody to figure it out. But if you're listening to this, chances are that's not you.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I already knew the issues that Sam had verbalized to me and that the blood work had told me.
What were your issues, Sid?
Well, I'm full of them.
We all are.
Transparently, then I was going to talk about this is like, what was I struggling with? Okay. So I would say that I'm generally speaking a healthy person. I prioritize healthy foods. I lift heavy weights. I do, I do things that I think are well-rounded. We're also very lucky in our work environment that we're around people that are passionate about that. Our job is about that. Hence the reason I started working there. And, we're just surrounded by it all day. Even
we
the
have
food
access
we can go
to so many resources.
We do. We're lucky, but I still didn't feel right. Like my stomach was upset. I got off birth control. My skin had a terrible reaction. I thought those were the immediate hand in hand things going on. And my stress and anxiety were like out of control, like could not calm down. Waddled over to Sam. I'm like, hey,
she did not waddle.
I waddled because I had a limp. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Because I was broken. No, I came over to her and I'm like, where do I even start? Like, what am I doing?
Was this the time you came over with blood work in hand?
Probably.
Yeah. So I looked at it, and do you care?
No.
Like, yeah.
You can say
I looked
anything.
at it and I was like, okay, so your androgens, which are basically like stereotypical like male hormones, like DHEA, testosterone, I'm like, those are high. And that this happens in women. And it happens for a couple of different reasons. It can happen if your blood sugar is off, or it can happen if you're chronically not managing your stress. Sid. Right?
I looked to the camera.
So then,
I'm like,
So then I was like, okay. And I actually love looking at like pieces of blood work, and before I get to other pages of it, guessing what it's going to be, because it's so fun when you're right. And in your case, I was totally spot on. Yeah. So I was like, okay, well, what symptoms are you feeling? That's the other fun thing to do, is ask people how they're feeling and then guess what their blood work is. And I'm like, yes, got
like,
it.
Winner.
Now let's fix you. But yeah, got it. So I was looking at it. I'm like, I bet her stress hormones are just like all over the place. And so I went over to electrolytes. I went over to different things that get impacted by stress. And I'm like, okay, here's the thing. You do have hormonal issues. The majority of people that are walking around with hormone issues, or like having symptoms or feeling like crap, they don't realize that hormone issues are almost always downstream to your nutrient status and your body's reaction to stress, right? So boring vitamins and minerals, if you're deficient, your hormone issues have like no shot. Like you have no shot of having good hormones, right? Or if your gut or your adrenals are off, you have no shot of having balanced hormones. And everyone's like, oh, my hormones are off. My thyroid is off. My, birth control, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, all this stuff. I'm like, that causes very real, very tangible issues in people. But unless you fix the upstream stuff, you're going to constantly be chasing down a solution.
Which is what I was doing. I was chasing a solution. And what was hitting me smack in the face on the forehead was that my stress was off. My sleep was not prioritized. And honestly, like sometimes my protein intake was a little bit wonky, but stress and sleep were the hand in hand. And guess what? They go together too.
And they're hard to address, right? They're simple, but they're hard, right? Because I said to you,
my anxiety.
I know. And I was like, these are, yes, you're feeling X because this is high, but this high thing is not going to get fixed until you start going to bed early, and until you start like managing your boundaries and literally figuring out ways to de-stress your life.
Here's the thing, and I think a lot of us can relate to this. I wanted a quick fix. I wanted it to be simple. I wanted it to be, I pop it in my mouth and I go about my day and I don't have to change anything. Guess what? That's not how it works. Even when I went to the doctor, I went to your general practitioner doctor. They had me do a questionnaire about anxiety, and I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't want to do this. Okay.
Should I lie?
Circle. You have anxiety. I'm like, yup, I'm aware. Do you want to take vitamin or, thing for it? I'm like, not yet. I'm trying to like solve this on my own. But even then, like, although they didn't know all these underlying things because you'd have to verbalize them, and I didn't do my blood work there. Yeah. The problem was hitting me in the face. So me going to Sam and hoping that a supplement was going to fix it was wrong. It didn't work. There were no magic pills. And also the thing that I want to just really express, because I said it earlier too, is like I had to be curious enough to figure it out and care enough to figure it out, to be honest with you.
And here's a big part of healing that people forget about is that there's a good portion of it that's in your mindset. If you view yourself as broken, you're going to stay broken.
And I was.
Yeah.
And then I would come back to Sam and say, nothing's changing. I don't know why. Oh my God. Why am I like still like this? Like my skin is still bad. Like I can't figure it out. And I was freaking myself out. It was causing me to spiral.
Yeah. And I mean, so much of it is mindset. And it's funny. So even like, where we work at Lifetime, there's like a 14-day program called Detox, which I think it's great. It's really transformational.
I've done it, but I will say I got COVID towards the very last, so I did not finish it.
That's
besides
out.
the point.
Yes.
I got knocked out, and it had nothing to do with that. It just was the time.
But here's what I'll say is even like, let's use that as an example. It's a 14-day plan. There's one of two ways you can go into that. One of them is like, I'm going to go into this and I'm going to have this be a catalyst that ladders up to my longer term health. I'm really curious to see how I feel after 14 days of clean eating, removing these allergens, getting enough protein, getting enough fiber. I can't wait to see how I feel. Like, let me see what difference I feel. Then there's the people that day one, I can't have my eggs. Ugh, where's my coffee? When is this horrible thing going to be over? Oh, just need to get 15 pounds off in 14 days, blah, blah, blah. They could eat the same exact foods throughout the 14 days. Who do you think is going to have better results every time?
The first person. My God.
Always.
The mindset matters.
It's always, you have to approach it with a spirit of curiosity and then also a spirit of trusting your body and its innate ability to heal, right? And its innate ability to be in a better spot without panic. That's the key, right? Without panic. And that doesn't, of course, there's extremes to everything with health. But as you had even like led that open is like, I'm generally healthy. I just had some symptoms I didn't like. And when anybody, and like Sid, you're not alone in that. Like everybody kind of deals with that, right? Like if you're starting to spiral and you're kind of going 10 years ahead and you're like, oh my gosh, and this is going to happen and this is going to happen. It's like, stop the presses. Why did you email me at 11 p.m. last night? Yeah. Right? Like,
I know.
Go to bed.
I was up too late last night. Okay, let's be real.
Not that. But I mean like the chronic sleep deprivation or being too busy or whatever. Like, let's implement that. And people, it's human nature to want the quick, whether it's a physical pill or a quick fix, the something to fix it right now. And I'm like, no, it's in the mundane. That's where the magic is.
I'm not lying to you. Ever since I've even just, because I would say I'm not perfect yet.
Yeah.
Just
none of us are
getting my sleep back under control.
Yeah.
Started setting time boundaries and boundaries. And granted, there's days where I spike and I'm like, shoot, I messed up. I didn't get enough sleep. I felt it the next day. Yeah. The symptoms all come back. My usually like skin gets worse right away. Yeah. It's crazy. It's like, it's pretty freaking wild. And I feel physically not great, which obviously is internal things happening that are like, I can't see them unless I got my blood drawn again.
For sure.
Right. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, getting my 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep, getting that locked and loaded has made me feel 1000% different. It is also, this is going to sound wild, and I don't know if you're going to be like, yeah, fact check that. But my personality is completely different because I feel better. I'm calmer. Yeah. And I'm also not like buzzing from thing to thing. Granted, yesterday I had a buzzy day, but I mean,
here's
we're doing
the thing.
our best.
We're all operating at different like energetic frequencies every day. I mean, that's like a real thing, right? And so your hormonal response to stress and your nutrient status, which ties into how your body hormonally responds to stress, absolutely changes your perspective, your outlook, the energy you put out, even if it's subtle or something that you don't see, it reflects to the people you're interacting with. And like your interactions can change just with your body language 100%. And all that type of stuff. And it's crazy to think that all of this ties to nutrition. It's not only to nutrition, it also ties to how much sunlight you're getting and are you exercising and getting those endorphins. But what you're saying is like, it makes complete sense. It's like totally valid.
And I'm not fixed yet. Yeah. Because there will probably never be a time.
Okay. First of all, you don't need to get fixed.
I know.
See?
I was about to say I'm not broken.
Yes. Right.
Sorry, everybody.
We're all on a journey. I think the thing to remember is that we are human, right? This human condition, you're never going to be like, it's never going to be perfect. No. It's messy, but you should wake up every morning feeling amazing. You should have the energy to want to go work out. You should feel that you're balanced in your relationships and your connections with other people. You should enjoy healthy, balanced food. You shouldn't be gripped and crippled by cravings or, the desire for things that aren't necessarily good for you. Like you should feel good every day and you should have good, positive relationships, and that should be what the majority of your life looks like. And if not, then there are things related to health that can tie in.
If you're somebody sitting here right now listening, like I keep urging you to go back to what Sam said about fixing those simple things first. Okay. Like this is not you're going to leave here with 30 more supplements to take and you're going to have like 40 new habits. Like you've got to just get basic. Like I'm talking sleep and I'm talking all the things that Sam has already listed. I want to ask you before we wrap or get closer to wrapping, just help me understand what somebody could do in the simplest of terms for these things. I have like anxiety, sleep, gut, PCOS, like things like that. And we're going to make it as simple as possible. We can go way more in depth. It's going to be
for sure
based on person and timing.
Like, let's just say generally speaking, knowing that it depends is baked into each answer.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Okay. So someone who's suffering with anxiety.
First things first, I would say, make sure that you are having outdoor time. Literally. Like I know you have to disconnect from your phone, right? Like put it down, get morning sunshine, get evening, like sunset time away from your phone, just be able to disconnect. That would be like the very first thing to do. And then also realizing that blood sugar issues can cause a ton of anxious feelings, as can vitamin D deficiency. It does go back to get enough protein to balance your blood sugar, to maybe remove that as a potential variable to your anxiety, and absolutely supplement with magnesium. Low magnesium can make you feel a little bit anxious and irritable. And then even worse is that anxiety and irritability can further drain your magnesium.
Okay. What about someone struggling with sleep?
The answer is actually the same as with the anxiety. So the number one determinant of your sleep is your circadian rhythm. And the number one impact on your circadian rhythm is your light exposure. So what most people don't realize is that morning sun exposure, so think before 10 a.m., within 30 minutes of waking up, can literally set your circadian rhythm for the next 24 hours. Get morning sunlight. Also avoid blue lights in the evening, because that tells your body at 9 p.m. that it's sunlight. And so you can't fall asleep well. So for sleep, I would say those two plus, and again, I think it's just coincidental, the fact that these are the same recommendations as anxiety. Magnesium is absolutely crucial for sleep. So do magnesium as well. So the answers are just by coincidence the same for those two.
Something that I've changed in my patterns is that I wake up and I don't always go immediately work out anymore. Like I used to be like, I have to. Some mornings I'm just going on a walk.
Yeah.
A nice 30-minute, like just stroll with my dog, being outside in the sun, putting my SPF on first, obviously. And then maybe in the afternoon or over lunch, I'm doing my workout.
Perfect.
So I want people to understand that like the epitome of health is not that you wake up in the morning and you're working out. Like
it's not always do more.
No.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're going to find the answer anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Gut. And I also wrote in here, reading labels was something that I do now to support my gut health, but I'm going to leave it at gut.
So gut, I will say what most people don't realize can be absolutely transformational is not multitasking when you eat. So literally like eating on the run, in the car, over your sink, doing different things, like sit down with a plated meal and eat it slowly. That actually can transform your gut health, right? Chewing really thoroughly. This drives people crazy, but people with the worst gut issues, I'm like, you have to chew 30 or 40 times a bite. They come back and they're like, what did you do to me? Like, this is, number one, it works, but number two, this is the most boring thing I've ever done in my life. I don't have time for this, Sam, but I feel better, so I'm going to keep going, right?
I love eating slow.
I
always have been that way though.
Slow eating, not eating on the run, that is absolutely transformational. And then I would say too, and again, we're talking general, right? It can be super helpful to avoid gluten, because it can cause, even if you're not gluten intolerant, it can cause you to be more susceptible to creating what's called intestinal permeability, to develop more gut issues, right? So I'd recommend gluten. And then there's some other foods that can be problematic for some people that are worth eliminating for a short time to see if you feel better, like dairy, right? Like corn, eggs for a lot of people too. And those aren't bad foods. It's if someone's acutely having symptoms, it's a let's try it kind of approach.
And it's not a forever thing. Please remember that it's not a forever thing. If you do a blood test, you do something that's like, I sent in my pricked finger. That's something that I had no idea. It's not forever that you're allergic to something. It is you're intolerant right now. Your permeability in your stomach is being affected. It's causing likely inflammation.
Close. Yep.
Or am I getting this kind of right?
It's permeability in your intestines, not in your stomach.
Oh, yeah.
It's permeability in your intestines. But we're not talking about an allergy test from like an allergist, right? Those are usually permanent, like the anaphylactic ones. But the sensitivity tests that are super popular, they're really helpful. I think what most people don't realize, and where we work at Lifetime, you always connect with a dietitian to make sure you fully understand the plan. The goal is always to have you have as inclusive of a diet as possible where you still feel good. Yeah. But sometimes you need a 3 to 6 to 9 month plan to get there. Yep. Right. But yes, it's never just to eliminate forever and be scared of something.
PCOS.
Oh gosh, this one is so common. So there's 2 things that can drive PCOS. There's insulin resistance and blood sugar issues and stress. And the first signs of PCOS are usually elevated testosterone and androgens, kind of like what you were starting to see.
I know,
I'm not saying you have PCOS.
No, I know you're not.
But everything's on a spectrum, right? So I'm like, your stress was driving this, which gone unchecked could eventually get here, right? So for PCOS, this one, because the majority of cases are blood sugar control. So again, we're going back to those basics, and you can see why they're basics because it's these birds kill so many stones. So making sure that your blood sugar is balanced, right? The other big thing with PCOS to keep blood sugar balanced is you need to lift weights. So again, it's a little bit confusing because sometimes women are like, well, I feel like terrible because I have high testosterone and lifting weights will, can have a testosterone impact. Lifting weights, particularly large muscle groups like legs, that can help really control your blood sugar and therefore get to like the root of the problem.
Wow.
So PCOS, I'd say that. And then there's some other things that you can do. Like generally speaking, people with PCOS do better off of dairy, maybe drinking spearmint tea every day. There's different things that you can do, different supplements like inositol is helpful. So
yeah.
That probably went a little bit more
No,
beyond
that's okay.
the simple that
I
you
actually
were hoping for.
No, that's interesting to me too.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a lot about those things. So thyroid problems.
Okay, so 90% of thyroid problems are due to an autoimmune attack on your thyroid, right? Hashimoto's thyroiditis is like the number one trigger of, in particular, women thyroid issues. And a lot of women with Hashimoto's don't even know that it's Hashimoto's. They just think they have a slow thyroid, right? So the number one thing to do if you are told you have a slow thyroid is make sure you have a full thyroid panel. So the number one thing there is like testing, right? Make sure that you get your TSH, your T4, your T3, and then ask for antibodies. There are TPO antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies. I actually have Hashimoto's. This is an area, this is an area I'm super, super passionate about. So because 90% of people that have Hashimoto's, most people with Hashimoto's are going to do better with extra gut support. You almost need extra gut support because autoimmunity, there's always a gut connection there. You need extra gut support, and you really, really should avoid gluten.
Okay.
Right. So that's probably, there's so much more to all of those things, and you've got to be nutrient sufficient too, like taking a B vitamin, taking selenium, zinc, all those types of things.
Man, oh man, God. What about inflammation and skin issues?
Skin, think of skin as your external gut.
Okay.
So follow the same type of gut protocol. Consider a food elimination. What I didn't talk about with gut that can be helpful is taking digestive enzymes when you eat, making sure that you are getting enough fermented foods and probiotics. And then actually, provided that you know what you tolerate and what you don't, the more diverse your diet is in produce, the healthier your gut is going to be because you're going to grow all kinds of healthy, good gut bacteria, and that helps balance everything else. So if you're just eating the same 4 things all the time, that's probably a problem.
Okay, last one. Mental health and like a balanced nervous system in general.
Oh yeah, this one can get super complex. So if you are struggling with anxiety or depression, I know it can feel really out of touch to say this, but if you could just force yourself to exercise. Literally, there's actual research that shows that it can be super effective for balancing that out. So start with 10 minutes outside. Yeah. Do something. Like you need to get your body moving. And as you feel better, you might be more willing to do it. Obviously, with stuff like this, I feel like I'm over disclaimering myself, but like make sure you're getting help. Make sure you're getting help. But other ancillary things that can help. Did you say anxiety and depression, or did you say?
I was referring to both. I said mental health. So I kind of put them under the same umbrella, but yeah.
So again, this is kind of spanning beyond nutrition, but it's the exercise. It's making sure that you are getting daily sunshine. We need that. We can't be under fluorescent lighting all day long and just staring at a screen all day. And from the nutrition standpoint, I would say try to do in addition to the protein, try to eat as anti-inflammatory as you can. And what that is, think focusing on meat, produce, healthy oils like olive oil, and like real food carbohydrate like root vegetables, oats, rice, etc. Just try to eat as balanced as you can so that you're not creating these huge energy spikes and drops, and also not introducing synthetic chemicals and colors and all those types of things that probably aren't the cause, but they're probably not going to help.
They're not going to help the problem.
Correct.
And they're not going to help the maybe inflammation that you're having or something. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
You are a load of knowledge.
Oh, well,
that's
thank
why
you.
I bug you all the time at work. I'll send stuff to her. Even I'll get excited because I'll see something on Instagram and I'm like, what do you think of this? And she's like, Sydney, have you been sleeping? The answer is no, because you sent me an email at 11:30.
Yeah.
go turn around.
It's a lot of
Stop paying
repetition.
attention to the weird random supplement you saw that's a paid ad on your Instagram, and go get your sleep right. Okay. And then talk to me later. Okay. And I'm like,
and it's
crap.
not that
All
the
right,
weird
all right.
random supplement might not be helpful. It's just in terms of having to prioritize everything you have to do. If you're missing the foundation of your house, back to that analogy, it doesn't matter what color curtains you have, right? Like you could swap them out and yeah, they're better curtains, but like your foundation is crumbling. Like why does it matter? And that's how you need to think about it.
I thought of one more fad that I would like to get your take on real quick. L-theanine in caffeine in your
That's
coffee.
actually good.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not terrible. But again, it's a curtain, right? It's not a foundation. But no, L-theanine is an amino acid derived from green tea, and it can be very calming. There are a lot of people that maybe struggle with anxiety, and they take, a couple 100 milligrams of L-theanine a couple times a day. That's not a bad thing to do, right? It's good. And for a lot of people, it can give you the caffeine impact without the jitters.
So then why would people be putting it in their coffee?
Because they can get the alertness of caffeine, but they're not getting
But don't they already get the caffeine with the coffee?
Wait, so maybe I'm misunderstanding your question.
I'm hearing people do it all over TikTok.
Of caffeine,
coffee, and L-theanine.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
so
okay,
you get all the positive of the coffee, right? You get the experience and the alertness, but the downsides of coffee where people are like, oh, I think I had too much. I'm starting to tweak out a little bit. Like the L-theanine dampens that, but you still get the I'm awake now. I've got my caffeine. Yeah, but
I thought you were saying L-theanine does it all. So I was like, what?
Oh, no, sorry. I probably said that wrong.
No.
I think so it kind of evens you out. So for example, even at Lifetime, our pre-workout has caffeine in it, but it has L-theanine in there because it actually helps you focus.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Do we have L-theanine at Lifetime?
Yep.
We do. Is it a powder? Is it a
we have
supplement?
We have L-theanine in our pre-workout.
Okay.
We also have L-theanine in a supplement called Relax, which is one of my favorite
I take
supplements.
that every night, except my dreams are wild.
Yeah, there's 100 milligrams in there, so it's super helpful. And Relax is a blend that we call a sleep primer or a sleep promoter. It has vitamin B6 in there. It has GABA, which is like a calming neurotransmitter. It has L-theanine. Has 5-HTP, which is a precursor to serotonin and melatonin. So you are less likely to kind of stress eat, and you're more likely to calm down and be able to make your own melatonin.
I literally live, laugh, love the Relax supplement. No, I'm serious. It's one of my favorites.
So there's L-theanine in there. And then on our online store, we have an option that's like a standalone L-theanine too.
Okay. And it's a powder?
That's a pill.
Oh, it's a pill. Okay. By the way, you can use the Well Said promo code if you go to
shop.lifetime.life.
Yeah. And if you looked up LT Nutrition or Lifetime Nutrition, you'd be able to find it. You'd get there. But you can type in Well Said as a promo code. And then also if you use 151085, that's my number, my code to you. You can stack that and get an additional 10% off. Okay. So Well Said, put that in promo code 151085, another code.
And one thing that I'll add is anything that you'll get at shop.lifetime.life that on the nutrition side, I work on the team that helps support that.
Yes.
We're free of all of those things. There's there is a whole team behind all of it, and we are just as passionately crazy.
They're wild
about no, if it's not perfect, it's not going in there. If it's not the right dose, it's not going in there. We are like dogs on a bone with that. So just know that anything on there is Sam approved.
And by the way, they're trying all the new shit that you see on the internet. I see it on your desks all the time, and you're yes or no, seeing if it's legit. And you're not just pigeonholing.
Correct.
And here's the thing, I want to say this just because I had no idea where to turn for supplements, and this is I do work for Lifetime. But I'm telling you right now, the quality is actually legit. I actually am majority, almost 100% buying everything from Lifetime. Everything that I can get from there, I buy it from there.
Yeah.
We're also a Thorne partner. So it's legit ingredients, you guys. And I had no idea, and I didn't want to guess. I kept hearing you can buy this one thing off Amazon, but this other one, you got to go through this company. And I would only go through this company for this one. And I was like, I can't, this is too much. I just want it to come monthly, and I want it to be legit, and that's all I care about.
And really, I think, the mindset, we're all a little bit different on the team there, and we all bring different expertises and backgrounds. The thing is what I will tell you is the mindset is a literal obsession with quality, right? But the second thing is that we are super passionate about trying to simplify health for people, because we realize that there are so many companies and influencers and approaches out there that provide a ton of information, and it's overwhelming, right? I might have done some of that even today on the show, right? know, but here's the thing. It all is coming from a place of trying to take the guesswork out for you so that you don't have to be like obsessed with going down every rabbit hole and just knowing, hey, if I grab this, it's good for me. And I don't have to fact check that.
Yes.
You should, right? Always
Please
fact check
do.
what you're doing, but just know that the entire team behind it, we are so committed to that. And what we actually want to do is make a real, true difference in people's lives. And that's how this stuff is formulated.
And that's what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
You've made a real, true difference in my life.
Aww.
You know, it's real.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought it would have to be so complex to get there. And it's really not. And that's, I hope to God, that is your takeaway from this episode, is that it is not complex to get to health. It is not. It should be approachable. It should be in reach, and it should be stuff you can do at home.
For sure.
And then also adding on where it makes sense, like Sam talked about.
We all go through seasons where it might get complex for a time, but you're right. For the majority of people, the basics done consistently will get you where you want to go. And then there's always help and customization available if you're in the small percentage or you're in a season where you need a little bit more.
All I'm saying is we're doing the very best that we can, and don't go extremist on us.
Correct.
And remember to indulge. You guys, indulge. You can still live your life, believe it or not, and be healthy.
Yes.
I promise. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for
That was
having me
so
on.
good.
It's so fun.
We can gab.
Yeah, we
All
probably
the day, all the time.
should probably wrap it up.
I know, we're like, we gotta go. We gotta get back to work, dude.
Yeah.
Sam, where can they find you if they wanted to? If would you want them to get in contact with you, or
That's
what would
fine.
be easiest?
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram. I have a personal account, but the account that I usually direct people to is coachsam.rd. I post a lot of lifetime type stuff there, but definitely if there's questions or if you're trying to figure out how to get better connected, especially with the programs that we offer through where I work at Lifetime, I can absolutely help and kind of navigate that too.
Amazing.
Yes.
Perfect. Crew, as always, give me a call if you need something, if you have something that you need to ask questions about or talk about. 612-470-7569. Remember those codes that we talked about earlier. If you are going to choose to go the supplement route or get some protein for you or whatever it is that you're getting, remember to refer back to what Sam said, where to start. But that's well said, promo code, and then also 151085 for an additional 10% off. I loves ya. I'm learning alongside of you. I am not an expert. That's why I bring in experts, and I hope that we can keep learning together. Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.